heard.
Stellark is a performance artist whose work is about the effects of technologies on our very selves. Hooked up to the internet through electrodes, Stellark's body convulses in time to the information travelling over the World Wide Web. We are, he suggests, already cyborgs.
We possibly have to think of redesigning the human body to match the capabilities of its machines.
Being physically connected to information technology is an extreme example of social change. Perhaps more obvious are the far-reaching changes to our working lives that the information society poses.
I do an enormous amount of work by email and sending stuff backwards and forward and drafts and stuff like that. For me, the information society is a very real thing. It's allowed me to work at home and work in an entirely different way and not have to depend on large organisations. And I will never work for a large organisation ever again.
The restructuring of work has consequences for social inequality and for democracy. The government expresses a great deal of concern about social exclusion and new skills. As Prime Minister Tony Blair recognises that those with IT skills are most likely to succeed in the world of work. The winners will be those with access to technology and training.
Bill Gates, the billionaire head of Microsoft, was invited to Downing Street today to discuss the government's plans.
The whole shape of our economy will be changed by this new technology. I have absolutely no doubt about that at all.
The internet companies tend to focus very much on richer individuals, those who have got money to burn, high disposable incomes.
The real danger is that in 5 years' time, if you haven't got internet access, if you haven't got basic computing skills, you just won't be able to get a job, you won't be able to take part in the things that everybody else takes for granted.
I think the winners are the people, corporations and organisations who are quick to adapt to this new technology, and the losers are the people who feel bereft, left behind, can't understand it and can't change quickly enough to use it.
The third aspect that we'll be looking at is how our connected world is remapping our geography. New connections allow information to flow around the world. With a single mouse click, you can move from Tokyo to California, as technology modifies geography and lives become less bounded by time and space.
Over the past couple of years I've been building a website called Atlas of Cyberspaces, and this is the front page on the screen at the moment, and the idea of the website is basically an online collection of maps and different ways of visualizing the internet, the web, email traffic flows and things like that. It was kind of like a geographic response to all the hype around the internet, that the internet makes geography redundant, and the death of distance is a very kind of famous kind of phrase that's used in terms of kind of telecommunications and the internet, that location, geography, distance no longer matters, and it's not fundamentally kind of revolutionary, changing the world. A lot of the patterns that you see in terms of who's connected and where the bulk of the traffic is flowing in terms of kind of geography follows existing kind of patterns. As an information space that's distinct from the actual underlying infrastructure, does warp geography in very interesting ways, but I don't think it makes it redundant. It just really, in some senses, stretches and compresses geography. So one mouse click, you can go from one website to the next, which is physically could be sending data from your backyard in one click, and then the next one is coming from Australia, but you don't necessarily need to know that to navigate it. So it's kind of it's changing geography in interesting ways.
MTV continues to unite a worldwide generation.
But does a greater flow of information and messages around the world mean we're all becoming the same, with a homogeneous global culture?
Today, MTV has traveled around the world, weaving the common threads of international youth into a global music source.
The language of rock music is a powerful force in the newly emerging markets, and some governments are very wary. MTV is one of the largest satellite broadcasters in the world, and it's led the way into the Asian market. But do mass markets inevitably mean a global culture?
The notion of global television, it's largely a fiction. It can work as a novelty. Certainly some networks, some formats, some types of programming have much more universal appeal than others. And I think big newsworthy events like a Gulf War that come along only so often are going to get people in all time zones to watch television simultaneously. But this McLuhan-esque notion of everyone in the world watching the same flickering images on a screen in real time will never be a reality. I think the more that you look at it, the current market makes clear that the more people are tied together by all this new technology and all this standardized hardware, the more they seem to want software that affirms their own cultural identity, their own traditional values, and most often that means in their own language. So the big business in this business, as before, will be local programming. I think there's no doubt about that.
Each MTV International affiliate uses a mix of original...
MTV is looking at ways of adapting to local cultures with the development of local content on MTV Asia. International broadcasters need to accommodate cultural diversity.
Incredible wonders. Bring the noise! MTV India, giving young adults a source of music entertainment that stretches across India.
MTV, baby.
Hey there, मैं हूँ राहुल और ये है MTV's Most Wanted, the show where you get to pick your favorite songs. इस कार्यक्रम में आप लोगों की फरमाइशी वीडियोस दिखाए जाएंगे, so be sure to get us your requests by mail or phone.
One of the advantages that you get with an MTV as a viewer is not only are we bringing you what's going on sort of in your neck of the woods, your part of the world, but we're also plugging you into what's going on in this increasingly smaller global world. So you'll find out what's going on in Argentina. If there's something of note that's going on in Australia, it's likely to find its way into MTV in Europe. So it sort of accelerates, in a certain sense, this whole process of not homogenization so much, but really just increased communication and understanding.
And offering the first ever truly global youth programming network. MTV speaks to many different youth cultures.
I think it's a force, no doubt. And it isn't all of MTV's doing, because what we do to a large extent is really program music from artists, stories about things that are happening and caused by other people in the world, and really give them airtime and allow them to be, received into these people's minds. But I think unquestionably MTV, as well as a lot of other forms of media, accelerate the process, have partially caused the process. But you see, some of the more superficial things, the type of motion pictures, the type of clothing styles, the type of food that's eaten, the type of sodas that are drank, the type of music that's listened to, the kind of posters you might find on a kid's wall, whether he's in Mexico City or in Madrid, quite often are going to be the same. It's all part of this smaller world that is driven by satellite communication.
Well, that's some of the core information society debates. On dxr220 and at this residential school, our aim is to explore these debates using a breadth of social science research methods. On each module, you'll have the opportunity to practice particular methods and to reflect critically on these, as well as analysing the data that you gather. As you do this, you'll be working with IT, making presentations, and undertaking group work. You'll also be collecting the data that you'll use when, after the residential school, you write your second TMA. It'll be hard work, but you'll be exploring some interesting and highly relevant issues. It's going to be an important step in becoming a social scientist, and it should be good fun.